Blessings to all. Join me today as I read the first chapter of the hood classic, A Hustler's Wife by Nikki. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Peace. I was questioned about the message that I send out in this novel and the way the story is told. This story is told for the lost, the confused, the weary, the bewildered, and the brokenhearted. I am certain many people can relate to this tale. And for those who can't, I hope I've painted the picture vividly enough so that you too can feel the struggle. Through the pages of this story, you will definitely begin to understand the ups and downs, the internal bliss, as well as the darkest plights of being a hustler's wife. Nikki Turner. Mama didn't say there'd be days like this. Yanni sat stunned on a cold mahogany courtroom bench. She couldn't believe the verdict of guilty. The high-profile court case of her notorious kingpin boyfriend, Dez, had ended in the worst possible outcome. After seeing the expression of defeat and frustration on Dez's face, Yanni broke down in tears as the numbness ran through her entire body. Her mind raced frantically as she reflected on what seemed like her life crumbling in front of her eyes. The trouble began when she returned from Los Angeles. Dez had paid for her to fly from Richmond, Virginia, to California to shop for her prom dress and accessories. For some reason, she could not get into the shopping spree that led from Saks to Bloomingdale's to boutique shops. Yanni had a bad migraine and a weak stomach the entire time. Dez's mother, Joyce, accompanied her as a favor to her son, though it was no secret that she could not stand Yanni. Joyce felt the girl was entirely too young for her son. She did not like the hold Yanni had over Dez, and she couldn't understand why he loved Yanni so much. She knew if anything ever happened to Dez, Yanni would be gone as fast as a speeding bullet. Joyce had a lot of style and class, which is why Dez asked for her help. If anybody could put an elegant ensemble together, she could. Joyce was a big-boned, dark-skinned lady that wore her hair in a flipped-under mushroom style. She had a big and nasty-shaped butt, the kind of butt that one could sit a drink on. She was short-changed in the breast area with a chest as flat as an ironing board. She drank lots of coffee, so her teeth had coffee stains on them. She wore large EK lizard print frames. Her jewelry resembled the female version of Mr. T. Yanni thought she was feeling pukey because Joyce was up close and personal with her. Always in her space, Joyce made Yanni extremely uncomfortable. The two of them kept their distance, even on this too-close shopping spree coordinated by the one man who loved them both. Dez wanted more than anything for the two of them to get along. Yanni counted the hours until she returned home away from Joyce's rolling eyes and back into Dez's loving arms. With the most beautiful prom wear money could buy, the mission was accomplished. Yanni was back into the comfort of her home and settling into the usual domestic lull after being away for the past 4 days. Upon entering her home, it was obvious that Dez had not attempted any housework. Yanni stood at the entrance of the kitchen. Watermelon decor was everywhere, which was a sure sign she was home. Yanni smiled when she glanced at the watermelon calendar hanging on the refrigerator next to the watermelon magnet with her and Dez's photo in it. They had taken a picture at the Virginia State Fair. Yanni was happy to see that Dez had circled the appropriate date on the calendar and wrote,
"Wifey returns."
Upon learning that his baby was back in town, Dez returned home. With roses in hand, Dez greeted Yanni, who he had missed being next to, with a passionate kiss. Later, Yanni treated Dez to his very own private fashion show of which she modeled her beautiful prom gown. They spent the remainder of the night holding one another, making up for the past few nights they had spent apart. Yanni fluttered around her watermelon-themed kitchen, putting a load of underclothes in the washer while humming, "At least we're lucky we got 'em, good times," to the end of the theme song. To catch up with the local news, she changed the channel on a 13-inch television sitting atop the refrigerator. The 6 o'clock news began with the voice of an anchor woman.
Covering the news where you live. This is News 6, Lolita Moore joins us from the city's south side with today's latest groundbreaking news.
This is Lolita Moore reporting live from Midlothian Turnpike. This car wash behind me,
She turned with index cards in hands and points.
is the crime scene of the city's latest homicide. A man was shot and killed execution style while getting his car, a 1985 Cadillac sedan DeVille, washed. The suspect fled on a sports motorcycle and was reportedly wearing all black. The victim has been identified as Roy Jasper. Authorities are questioning members of the alleged 233 mob.
Yarny sprinted over to the television, knocking a watermelon motif statue off the wall to turn up the volume. She stood all ears, eyes, and in pure disbelief.
Yeah, I knew Roy real well.
A Jerry curl-wearing bystander spoke at the scene into the camera.
I knew he had a contract out on one of those 233 boys, so they probably did this.
With that powder keg on street interview under her belt, Lolita Moore smiled.
This is believed to be drug and gang related. Stay tuned. We will be updating you with further information as it becomes available to us. Back to you, Julia.
Yarny ran over to the red and black lip-shaped telephone in their living room and dialed Dez's pager number. She gazed at a photo pasted inside the lips of the phone as she waited for the 3 beeps. She anxiously punched the keys. 266-9999 plus 000. This was an emergency. As the time on the digital clock changed, Yarny questioned where Dez could possibly be. He usually called right back. Yarny paced the floor. She reflected over words her girlfriend Melanie had planted in her mind weeks before.
Girl, I'm only telling you this because you are my homegirl and I want you to be aware of the word in the streets. This dude Roy put a contract out on Dez because he owes Dez $60,000 that he lost tricking and getting high with some freaks. He figured Dez was going to try to kill him, so Roy put out a $15,000 contract on Dez. He didn't have the heart to kill him himself. He knew Dez wouldn't have any type of understanding about his money being short. Everybody knows Dez don't take partial payments. Roy tried to hire this guy named Smoke, who got his name and reputation from his ashy complexion and doing murder for hires. It just so happened that Smoke had a lot of respect for Dez, so he went and told him. And I heard that Dez gave Smoke $10,000 for the valuable information.
Tears formed in Yarny's eyes. How could this be? She sat down on an oversized black leather sectional sofa, stared at the phone, wishing it would ring. We were just together all morning and afternoon. We were in Aunt Sarah's pancake house eating chicken and pancakes when this occurred. So I know for a fact Dez couldn't have anything to do with this. He never left my side for a minute. Why they gotta be messing with him? Meanwhile, across town on the city's south side, Dez is kneeling down on the ground watching the dice like a Hulk. Everyone is quiet while waiting to see the dice fall, when all of a sudden the loud beep, beep, beep interrupts the game. Dez looks at his pager in panic. 000. In the whole 2 years we've been together, she's never used the emergency code. What the hell is going on?
Yo, Slim, come on.
Dez called out to his right-hand man as he jumped into his gray 1985 turbo diesel 300 Mercedes-Benz, almost forgetting to pick up his money up off the ground that he had bet with.
Something ain't right, man. You only just paged me with our emergency code. She's never used that code the whole 2 years I've been with her.
He unzipped the bag, which enclosed his cellular phone. Heart pounding as he dialed, he spoke to Slim in a disgruntled tone.
Yo, if something happens to my wife, it's gonna be a bunch of dead bodies, man. I'm telling you.
Hello?
Yarny's sweet voice managed, not trying to muffle the fact that she had been crying ever since she heard the news report.
Baby girl, what's wrong? Talk to me, baby.
Dez replied, worried.
I need you to come home right now. I've got to talk to you. It's extremely important.
I'm on the way. You alright?
Dez said.
Yeah, I just need you here, that's all.
Anybody there with you? Just say yes or no.
No, baby, it isn't what you think. Now, please, just come home.
I'll be there in less than 15 minutes.
Okay, I love you, baby.
I love you too, baby girl.
Dez pushed the accelerator to the floor doing 100 miles an hour in a 55 miles per hour zone. Weaving in and out of traffic on 95 North, Des almost missed his exit to 64 West, where he just about caused a Volvo to hit a Mustang. The Volvo driver honked the horn at him as he stuck his middle finger up in the rearview mirror. He was listening to Paid in Full cassette in his Alpine tape deck. He sung along with Rakim.
I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke, so I slam it. When I'm done, I'm making sure it's broke.
He turned down the music and looked at Slim, who was bopping his head to the beat.
Yo, man, if any of them scandalous hoes done told my wife something, oh, I'm going to straight pistol whip one of them. That's my word. If any of these local niggas done disrespected my wife, oh, he's gonna die.
Yanni paced the floor looking out of the window every few minutes. Des pulled up in front of their Sundance Station apartment, taking up 2 parking spaces, almost stripping the gear shaft as he quickly put the car in park. He hopped out the car. His size 10 crisp new blue-white Delta Force Nikes hit the pavement. He sprinted across the wet lawn, avoiding the sprinkler system with Slim trailing behind him. He never acknowledged the mud that splashed on his $100 sneakers, as his only concern was to get to Yanni. 3 steps before he approached the door, he reached under his shirt and pulled out his 9mm semi-automatic. He then gave Slim the key to open the door. Yanni ran to the door, put her arms around Des and lay her head on his chest as she cried. He embraced her tightly as he put the safety back on the 9mm gun and laid it on the table. Slim stood guard with his .45 Magnum pistol in hand.
Baby girl, tell me what's wrong.
He said in a comforting voice, while holding Yanni in his arms. His whole attitude had changed. Whenever he dealt with Yanni, his persona turned into a teddy bear. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I was watching the news and the reporter said they were questioning people from the 233 mob for killing that boy Roy. With you being the leader, I was afraid the cops had you.
Yanni sobbed while sniffling and blowing nose with the tissues she gathered while waiting for Des to arrive.
Baby girl, you don't have anything to worry about. I know the police will probably pick me up for questioning because of my reputation, but they can't hold me. Nothing has changed. I'm giving all this up in a couple of months once you graduate. You know what we plan, right?
He asked her as he stroked her hair. Yanni shook her head, wiped her tears, and smiled up at him. The plan was as soon as she graduated from high school, they were going to move to Norfolk. She had been accepted to Old Dominion University. He was going to give up his current lifestyle and open an exotic car lot near Virginia Beach. He had a good run. He'd been flooding keys of powder coke into the streets of Richmond for the past few years. Des had every drug house, corner, strip, block, and neighborhood in the streets of Richmond and all surrounding counties on lockdown. He owned and operated every single after-hour, crap, number, and liquor house in the town. The ones he didn't own in the rural areas got blessing and approval from Des. He was the ringleader of the 233 mob and ran the most successful and organized crime ring in the state of Virginia. He had found Yanni and wanted to share the rest of his life with her. Amazed that he had gotten away with everything this long, Des was certain it was time to move on. He knew that his life was a trap. He had enough money. He had money stashed and decided to quit while he was ahead. The day she graduated, the police indicted him on murder charges. He was held with no bond. Yanni wanted to drop dead and die. She was devastated. The funny thing is, everybody thought that she was distressed over the money. She was ravaged due to the fact that her husband, her soulmate, her best friend, her confidant, her life, her everything, her all was gone. Yanni sat on the mahogany bench listening to the verdict, knowing he didn't commit this crime. He was dining with her at Aunt Sarah's at the time of the murder, and he never left her side. That was Yanni's testimony when she was called to the stand, but the testimony of others were more damaging. Roy's mother, Shucky, was a frail, brown-skinned, bald-headed woman with her front teeth missing or rotten from getting high for so long. She testified that she'd seen Des fleeing the scene. She was a junkie. Shucky had a possession of cocaine charge pending in another court, which was going to be dismissed after she hung Des. The Commonwealth attorney agreed to the deal. Shucky was a freebasing cocaine addict lowlife, but they had wanted Des for a long time, so her character was ignored. Des was sentenced to 60 years. Yanni's vision blurred. She couldn't hear or interpret anything anybody was saying. All she could hear was guilty and feel the weight of her own sobs coming like huge waves in her arms. Yarny immediately looked at Dez, screamed out to Shucky,
You lying junkie bitch. You reap what you sow. Just because I'm in here, don't think it ain't others who can get to you. You better leave town because this town is not big enough for you to hide in.
Dez was taken away, chained and shackled. When Dez reached for the door, he stopped in his tracks. He glared at Yarny, then hollered out to her.
I love you, baby girl. Forever and ever. These walls can't stop our love, baby.
Yarny couldn't look at Dez. Dez's white bow tie wearing lawyer explained to her that he would have to do at least 15 years before he would be eligible for parole, providing good behavior. The lawyer informed her that the longest the state could hold him was 35 years. 35 years was a long-ass time. She had to figure something out. Yarny finally got herself together and left the courtroom to face Joyce, who had been removed earlier from the courtroom for trying to intimidate Shucky from testifying. Shucky had a restraining order out on Joyce for threatening her not to go to court to testify against Dez. When Yarny delivered the news to Joyce, her first concern was she wanted his material possessions.
How long before you're gonna be home? Because I need to come and get Dez's jury, and also I need to get his cars from over there. You're gonna have to sign that Benz over to me, which is in your name too.
Joyce was harsh and to the point. She never liked playing second fiddle to Yarny. And now it was time for her to position herself as numero uno, as his mother. The nerve! How dare she, Yarny thought, speechless. She could not utter a word.
You can act like you don't hear me, but I'm gonna say it one more time.
Joyce stressed.
I need to get all my son's belongings from you, and I mean that.
Yarny's palms began to sweat and her heart began to pound rapidly as she looked up into Joyce's eyes and said to her in a stern tone,
Did you comprehend what I just said? I said they just gave Dez 60 years for a crime he didn't commit, and all you can do is worry about his possessions? I simply cannot focus on any car or anything else material right now. Just so you know, I am not giving anybody any of his belongings until I speak to him. As a matter of fact, I can't even talk to you anymore because I feel like you are tempting me to disrespect you, and overall you are Dez's mother.
Yarny put her hand on the strap of her MCM pocketbook that Dez had rewarded her for making all A's the next to last 6 weeks of school. She pushed it all the way on her shoulder and turned to walk away. Joyce followed behind her, making a scene.
Listen to me, you little grown-ass girl. You don't get sassy with me, Missy. See, you might have a hold on Dez, but I don't care nothing for you. Never liked you and never will. You ain't nothing to me. See, Dez ain't here to take up for you now.
Joyce was so mad, foam gathered in the corner of her mouth. Yarny couldn't control the tears from rolling down her face as she walked faster and faster to get out the pathway of Joyce's words. Everybody from the bondsman to the inmate trustee mopping the hall and the lawyer holding a file talking to his client stopped what they were doing to watch the distraction as Joyce made as Yarny expeditiously tried to escape. Once she was out of the courthouse, she ran to her car. She threw her purse into the passenger seat and just sat in the driver's seat and sobbed. As the tears flowed down her face, then to her neck, she screamed,
Why me?
After Yarny boo-hooed a while, reality sank in. Where was she to go now? She knew she wasn't going to ask her family for any type of assistance. She was too ashamed to after she moved out from her mother's house and in with Dez. She had vowed at that very moment that other than moral support, she would never ask anything else from her family. She would learn to take care of herself. But where would she start? Somehow she managed to drive herself to her favorite aunt, Andrea's house. Andrea was a small-featured, cocoa-colored woman with very thin eyebrows and long eyelashes. She wore finger waves gelled neatly across her entire head. Before she could ring the doorbell, she reflected on something Andrea had told her years ago. The Bible said that if two come together and agree on something, whatever they ask for will come to pass. But Yarny needed confirmation. Yarny asked God to give her the will and the strength to be there for Dez and to love him unconditionally. To be with Dez always, even through incarceration. She prayed for some of the tension to lessen between her and Joyce. She knew that the only breakthrough and miracle would come from God. Andrea had already heard the verdict on the evening news. Yarny explained to Andrea in detail the performance Joyce put on as they were leaving the courthouse. To Andrea's surprise, Yarny wasn't really concerned with Joyce's actions. Her focus was on Dez and his well-being. Andrea tried to comfort her by sitting beside Yarny on the love seat and placing her arms around her, asking her,
Baby, would you rather have 12 people convict him or 6 people carry him?
That wasn't comforting to Yarny at all.
Auntie, no disrespect, but somebody dying or going to jail is two totally different things. In jail, everything is stripped from you. Your freedom, your self-respect, and your loved ones are all taken away. Yeah, you can still see them and touch them, but at the same time, you watch them get conditioned. You watch them get bitter. You watch and hear of your loved ones getting disrespected by some egotistical control freak toy cop who probably doesn't have any authority at home, so they come to work and abuse their authority. I'm sorry, Auntie.
Yarny said, shaking her head.
There's just no comparison.
Andrea said, right, as Yarny continued.
Then we get stripped of our rights as well. We have to be searched when we visit. We can't wear this, we can't wear that. They can search our cars at any given time if it's on their premises. Does prison actually corrupt our people to be more unscrupulous? What is the fear now?
Andrea couldn't get a word in edgewise.
The way I see it is one day you're living a regular life, and the next day you're in prison being treated like an animal, locked in a cell 23 hours a day. Then they wonder why you're released and act like an animal.
Yarny thought about all these things and just began to pray. She had always prayed every night, but now she really pulled out her Bible and started to read it. Her mother had always instilled prayer in her life. She knew that God would be with Des no matter what the outcome was. Andrea kneeled in front of the sofa with Yarny. She left her Aunt Andrea's house feeling a lot better. As Yarny approached the apartment, she could see from the street that the door was cracked open. As she approached the door, she realized it was off the hinges. She automatically thought the police had been there. But for what reason? Des was already in jail. She walked into the apartment. The living room furniture was gone. There was only a broken frame into the floor with the photo of Des and Yarny that Des had gotten painting to hang over the fireplace. She walked to the eating kitchen. The table was gone. There was only one bar stool pulled up to the counter with one watermelon placemat. She stepped into the dining room. Cleaned out. She proceeded to the bedroom. Nothing left. Only Yarny's clothes were hanging up in the closet in her jewelry box. There was a note attached to the jewelry box with duct tape. Written on a brown paper bag with a black magic marker in big bold letters was,
You will not be fucking no other nigga on my son's shit.
She couldn't believe Joyce was behind all this. Yarny screamed out.
That dirty bitch.
She broke down crying hysterically.